Imagine living in the United States for 20 years. You pay taxes, buy a home, raise your children, vote in elections, and carry a blue U.S. passport in your pocket. You believe the immigration struggle is finally behind you. And then one day, you are told that your citizenship might be reviewed again not because of something you did today, but because of a detail from a form you filled out many years ago. This is not a rumor or a movie plot. This is a real issue that naturalized Americans need to understand in today's immigration climate. Most naturalized citizens believe that once they take the oath of allegiance, their status becomes permanent. That belief makes sense. Citizenship is supposed to be the final step of the immigration journey. After years of visas, interviews, background checks, and waiting, citizenship feels like security. For decades, that understanding held true. But now, the concept of denaturalization is re-entering public discussion in a way that makes many immigrants uneasy. Denaturalization is the legal process through which the U.S. government can revoke citizenship after it has already been granted. Under federal law, this process was designed to be extremely rare. Citizenship can only be taken away if the government proves that it was obtained unlawfully, usually through intentional fraud or deliberate misrepresentation of important facts. Honest mistakes were never meant to qualify. Minor inconsistencies were not supposed to lead to life-altering consequences. What has changed is not the law itself, but how enforcement priorities are evolving. Immigration enforcement is no longer focused only on borders, visas, or new arrivals. Increasingly, attention has shifted toward reviewing past immigration decisions, including naturalization cases approved many years ago. When agencies begin re-examining old files, the impact reaches people who believe their cases were permanently settled. One major concern raised by legal experts is what happens when rare enforcement tools begin to operate at scale. When officers are encouraged to identify more potential cases, the process becomes less about exceptional circumstances and more about volume. Under those conditions, files are searched, timelines are compared, and discrepancies that once seemed insignificant can suddenly attract attention. The reality is that most immigrants did not complete their applications under perfect conditions. Many filled out forms in a second language. Some relied on community assistance or non-professional help. Others completed paperwork while juggling demanding jobs, family responsibilities, and strict deadlines. Over long immigration journeys, details can change. Addresses update. Job titles evolve. Travel histories blur. Names may appear slightly differently across documents issued years apart. At the time, these issues were rarely treated as serious problems. Applications were approved, interviews were passed, and citizenship was granted. Life moved forward. But when those same documents are reviewed decades later, the context in which they were created is often ignored. A missed travel entry or a date inconsistency can be reinterpreted through a much harsher lens. This is where anxiety begins to grow among naturalized citizens. Immigration attorneys report that more people are asking questions they never thought they would need to ask. What if a short trip was forgotten? What if employment dates overlap slightly? What if old documents no longer exist? What if advice given years ago turns out to have been incomplete? These concerns are not rooted in guilt, but in uncertainty. Indian-born Americans are particularly aware of this issue because many experience long and complex immigration paths. Employment-based visas, multiple extensions, years of green card backlogs, and eventual naturalization often created extensive paper trails. The longer the process, the more forms exist and the more opportunities there are for small inconsistencies to appear over time. Indian American families are deeply established in the United States. They have built careers in technology, healthcare, engineering, education, and business. They have purchased homes, raised American-born children, and contributed significantly to their communities. For them, citizenship is not symbolic, it is the foundation of their lives. Any uncertainty surrounding that status feels deeply personal. Beyond individual fear, this issue raises broader questions about citizenship itself. If naturalized citizens must worry about having their status reviewed years later, Does that create an unspoken divide between them and those born in the United States? Does it change the meaning of citizenship from a permanent status to a conditional one? These questions matter because citizenship is not just a legal label, it is identity, belonging, and trust in the system. At the same time, it is important to remain grounded in facts. Denaturalization is still a legal process that requires court proceedings. The government must meet a high burden of proof. Citizenship is not revoked automatically or casually. Awareness does not mean panic, and caution does not mean wrongdoing. What experts generally recommend is preparation, not fear. Naturalized citizens should understand their own immigration history, keep personal records organized, and seek advice from qualified immigration attorneys if they have genuine concerns. Avoiding misinformation and emotional reactions is just as important as staying informed. Immigration policies evolve, and enforcement priorities change with time. What does not change is the importance of accurate information. When people understand the system, they are better equipped to protect themselves and their families. Silence and ignorance only increase uncertainty. Citizenship represents commitment both from the individual and from the country that grants it. Millions of naturalized Americans followed the rules, waited patiently, and built their lives in good faith. Their contributions are real, lasting, and essential to the United States. This conversation is still developing, and it deserves careful attention rather than fear-driven narratives. Staying informed allows communities to respond thoughtfully instead of emotionally. It allows families to plan instead of panic. If you are a naturalized citizen, knowledge is your strongest protection. Stay aware, stay organized, and stay connected to reliable information. Immigration stories do not end with citizenship, they continue as policies evolve. And understanding those changes is how people protect what they have worked so hard to build.